Hello, this is the Economic Choices Section A Economic Reasoning Lecture. Our prioritized standard is Economic Standard 1, and objectively we're going to evaluate the economic concept of scarcity. So scarcity is the economic condition that results because of the relative imbalance between people's unlimited wants and their limited resources. Or in other words, we want a lot. There are lots of things that we want, although our ability to get those things are actually, in comparison, very limited, meaning we are never going to be able to have all the things that we actually want. At some level, even if you had all the money in the world, you still couldn't get every single thing you want because there are still limits on that. For instance, there's only 24 hours in a day. So even if you had all the money for anything you wanted in the world, the fact that there's only 24 hours in a day is going to limit your ability to get all those things that you might in fact want. Speaking of wants, economic wants are actually desires that can be satisfied by consuming a good or a service. Now these are two terms I'm going to use tons in econ, so it's probably going to make sense that we actually take the time to determine the difference between them. Goods are physically tangible things that can satisfy people's wants. So you have money, you want to go get something to eat. This is a good. This is an actual thing that you can look at, you can touch, you can hold. If someone asks, what did you spend your money on today? You can say, I spent my money on this. Here it is what I spent my money on. As where services are physically intangible things that can satisfy people's wants. So maybe you spent your money for someone to make you something to eat. Well, that's not tangible. That's not really something that you can take out of your pocket and be like, hey, this is what I spent my money on today. Someone made me something to eat. That's not going to work in the same way because it's not tangible. Doesn't mean you didn't still spend your money on it, but it's not tangible in the same way. So I want to point out there is kind of a spectrum between goods and services. Some things do fall in the middle of that spectrum. Because of the situation of scarcity, people must make choices about how to use their resources to satisfy their wants. In making choices, there's commonly a conflict of wants versus needs. And most rational people actually put their needs ahead of their wants. Meaning you might want an Apple computer, but most people need food, so they're going to spend their money on food. That's how most rational people work. Now, I should point out another term, an assumption of economics, is that we are talking about rational people. And rational people usually behave in a predictable way. So most rational people, when they come across something that might be considered a risk to them, they're going to behave in a way that you can't expect. Although you probably know in your actual life that on a daily basis, people don't always predict, are not always acting rationally, and some people are irrational. But whenever we talk about people in economics, we're not ever talking about all people. We're talking about people that are rational people. So, yeah. Now, there's a difference between scarcity and shortage. So, for instance, scarcity always exists. So I should probably point something out. We have a set amount of oil in the earth. At some point, we will run out of oil. So there's nothing you can do to change that. It's not like you can start protesting and be like, we want oil forever. We want more oil. It's like, what was your Me Too oil moment? And then magically there's just more oil on the earth. Yeah, there's nothing you can really do about that. So let me tell you the story of oil. So you had a big dinosaur. Then it huddled off in a corner and dropped dead. 1,000,000 years later, now we have oil. So when we have oil, it's basically dead dinosaur. So since we don't have any more dead dinosaurs, when we run out of the last dead dinosaur remain, that will be the end of Oil Town. Fun side note, if you didn't know, that's not actually where oil comes from. It's not actually dinosaurs. It makes for a fun story though. But the reason it can't be dinosaurs is because dinosaurs were around too recently. Dinosaurs haven't been dead long enough to actually turn into oil yet. So, but it's basically the same premise. You had things that were alive a long time ago, then they dropped dead, held off in a corner. Millions of years later, now we have oil. So that's basically the same story. The more you know. Na, 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 na. Now, as where scarcity is something that you can't change, shortages are actually only temporary. So it's possible you might go to the gas station at some point in your life and, oh no, they're out of gas. Now, that doesn't mean there's never going to be gas ever again. It means something probably happened to cause that shortage to take place. So maybe there was a hurricane somewhere. Maybe there was a lot of holiday driving and people just got lots of gas and were just out of gas. But at some point, that gas will be back at that gas station because the thing that caused that to take place will eventually be fixed and taken care of. As where scarcity, again, there's nothing you can do to undo the impending doom that is oil will be gone at some point. But shortages, something happened. Once that's taken care of, no more shortage. Now, individuals, governments, and societies all actually experience scarcity because there are never enough resources to satisfy all of their wants. Now, people also respond predictably to economic incentives, which is the desire to achieve financial or material gain and to avoid financial or material loss. Meaning, people like good things to happen to them, and they like to avoid bad things from happening to them. That's what's meant by economic incentives. Now, this actually also operates under another economic assumption. We've talked about several of these assumptions already. But this one is kind of right here, number 3. Everyone's goal is to make choices that maximize their satisfaction. Everyone acts in their own self-interest. So that's what economic incentives means. That, again, you want good things to happen to you. You want to avoid bad things from happening to you. These economic incentives are powerful motivating forces for most people, and market economies for that matter, with the pursuit of economic self-interest as a basic motivation that leads people and businesses to provide goods and services that other people want. Now, people generally seek to allocate their scarce resources to obtain the highest possible return. Since you don't have infinite resources, you want to make sure the resources you do have will last the longest. Also, should point out this hope of earning a profit motivates firms to incur the risk and cost involved in starting a business. So the fact that people want to make money is going to cause them to take risk sometimes because they are anticipating that, hey, if this risk works out, I'm going to make lots of money. So again, it's all about self-interest. Incentives often influence individuals differently, and not all human behavior is actually motivated by economic incentives. So, for instance, some people might quit jobs to raise children. Some might be unwilling to move, even for a better paying job. Some people of average to above average intelligence might willingly choose to be a teacher. It's like economic incentives doesn't explain it all. Now, there are actually 3 factors of production, or productive resources, which are all the resources required to produce the goods or services consumers want to buy and producers want to produce. Meaning, anytime you buy a product, even something like a crop, there are different types of resources that are actually converging and coming together to actually produce that crop. Most crops just are not ready for consumer automatically. So, of these factors of production, one of these factors of production is land, or natural resources, which are the gifts of nature that are present without human intervention. So, these are the things that God says, hey man, I got this. So the things that would be around even if humans weren't here tomorrow. So stuff like land, timber, fish, oil deposits, mineral deposits, the fertility of soil, the climatic conditions of an area, all the things that are just always here, and they are here regardless of humans being here. Another factor of production is labor, or human resources. So this is the quantity meaning the number of something, and the quality, or how good something is, of human effort that's directed toward producing goods and services, which can be improved through investments in education, training, and healthcare. So whenever humans decide to do some type of work, that is considered labor. Now there's kind of a subset of labor that is considered entrepreneurship, which are human resources that assume the risk of organizing other resources to produce goods and services. So when people are Using entrepreneurship, this actually means that entrepreneurs are going to risk economic failure in return for the possibility of earning a profit. So another way of thinking of entrepreneurship is labor people have an idea, and that idea is entrepreneurship. So this person might have maybe grown peaches previously, but then they actually made the decision that, hey, maybe I can use these factors of production in a way that's different than it's been used in the past. And by doing that, I can get my peaches faster than I normally got my peaches. And the last factor of production is capital, sometimes called capital goods, which are the goods or services used to make other goods or services, meaning someone already produced whatever this product was. And based on producing that product, it's now being used to produce something new. So for instance, I'm actually using technology to produce this lecture video, but it doesn't mean that I actually invented technology. Somebody else invented technology. I'm just using that technology to make the lecture video. Maybe mom makes peanut butter jelly sandwiches. That doesn't mean that mom invented peanut butter. I'm guessing she also didn't invent jelly, and she probably also didn't invent bread. Someone else invented all those things, produced those things, and mom's just putting those things together to actually make peanut butter jelly sandwiches. All right, so that was Economic Choices, Section A, Economic Reasoning lecture. Our prioritized standard was Economic Standard 1, and objectively now you can evaluate the economic concept of scarcity.